Perfect Turd Podcast, episode 95, Lamar. It's the prisoners of Ghostland. That was my Nicolas Cage.
Oh boy, we're gonna talk a lot about Nicolas Cage, because he stars in this, and
He sure does.
boy, oh boy, we talk about the Nicolas Cage movie. What you're gonna get? You're gonna get weird. I think this one is off the rails, Nicolas Cage. Like he's just not giving a shit. He never phones it in. But
nope.
Boy, oh boy, does he go in the opposite direction. He's wow.
Yeah, well, we saw this one in the theater. We actually went there and I'm glad we saw this in the theater because this movie is an experience.
And we went to the Enzian, local theater.
It's one of those movies where you'll never forget where you were when you saw it. Good, bad, or indifferent.
And the thing is, you still won't be able to understand what the movie was.
Yeah. Well, on the surface, there's a skeleton of a basic plot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have this place that's like Japan, but it's like a Wild West version of Japan.
Yeah.
And it's run by this character called the Governor, who's Bill Moseley. And basically one of his top girls disappears, who he calls his daughter.
Yeah.
But I think later we find out he's a pimp of some kind.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so he recruits Nicolas Cage, who's an imprisoned bank robber. So he gets him out of prison, and he basically forces him to go rescue this girl in a very kind of Escape from New York's Snake Plissken kind of way. He forces him to go rescue the girl.
Put a suit on him with different bombs on different parts of his body. Yeah.
And then along the way, a bunch of crazy shit happens, and I have no idea what happened.
Well, and it's important, like you said, it starts off with that skeleton, but it derails.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like, you don't know what's a dream and what's real, because it doesn't really mesh well. Because Nicolas Cage, well, I've put this together. Maybe this was the director trying to say something. We're going to spoil a scene.
Okay.
He gets the suit and everything like that, and he goes off to drive to the actual place he needs to go to get this woman. And they give him car keys, and he drives a little ways, and then he gets out, and he gets on a bike.
Yeah.
And then Nicolas Cage, who's a big man, is riding off out of the town in this bike, and then they come back around with the car and you got to take this car.
Yeah.
This is not explained at all. That, I think, is the symbol for this movie. Because it goes off and then it comes back, then you're like, why does this happen?
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff with the ghost. There's a subplot of the ghost. Who are the ghosts? Yeah. There's some kind of nuclear fallout. And this movie, I think we talked about this after we saw it. It's a combination of the Japanese cinema style with a Western, with Mad Max, with some Tarantino, and then Nicolas Cage just in a super collider, all mixed together. That's what this is.
And if it had a good, just natural, story, it would have been enjoyable. But this one, I don't know. They get to some other town where they're trying to stop time.
Yeah, well, they're trying to keep time going, right? They have to keep the clock going.
It's weird but they're stopping the hand on the clock.
Yeah, I don't know.
But but it's but why is that important? Because that's not how time works.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they're trying to prevent some kind of cataclysm. I don't know. They're trying to prevent some event from happening.
And I think they were trying to make some symbolism about, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, of course, what happened in World War II.
Yeah.
But that has no bearings on the plot at all.
Not really.
No.
Now, I will say this. The movie is visually stunning. It looks amazing. The set design and all the interesting things, because there's just a lot of interesting things, visuals. One of my favorite things, they had these women, their heads were coming out of, like, they had, I don't know how to describe it unless you see it, but it's like their heads were coming out of like this wall.
Yeah.
And their heads were like moving in a circle while they were singing this song. And
Yeah.
it was visually just impressive, this whole thing. A lot of crazy stuff, but very impressive.
A lot of practical stuff too. Is actual sets. It's not green screen stuff.
Yeah.
So they're actually building these sets, but it still doesn't mesh with like an actual narrative, which is weird. Like, I don't know. And then, well, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, we gotta talk about him.
Every once in a while, he yells an obscenity. That's his character. His character's name is Hero.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, we know he's the good guy, but then he just does super random stuff, and you're just like, well, okay, I guess this guy's gonna save the day somehow. So,
yeah. I mean, let's talk about Nicolas Cage, because we've seen Willy's Wonderland recently and stuff, and for whatever everyone knows his problems or whatever, that he has to take on a lot of movies lately.
Yeah,
but I would say this with Willy's Wonderland and with this one, he's taking on stuff that it's not like the typical B movie where it's just phoning it in type of like revenge plot or whatever, like a Death Wish ripoff or something. He's taking projects that are interesting, so
they're a risk. That's an important thing to say. They're a risk. Yeah.
And I don't think that, like, you could look back on this movie when you look at his whole, like, all his work, and I don't think this is something that you shush off and say, oh, that was some garbage thing that he did to make, his monthly payments.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is merit here in this one.
Yeah. It like you said, it looks good.
Yeah.
I think Nicolas Cage doesn't phone it in. It's just I think what happened is they tried to jam all of these elements together, and they had good ingredients. They didn't have a good recipe.
Okay. Well,
that's what I think.
What's going to be the rating, I guess?
That's tough, because there are some really cool visuals in this movie. Like some really cool stuff, not just like, camera stuff, but like how they made up people and stuff. It's like, the easiest thing to give it is like a 3, because that's like the down the line, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if I like it or not. Like, I don't know. I guess I have to give it a 3, because it's like, I'll give this to a film student and be like, check out some cool things they did with the cinematography.
Right.
Don't pay attention to the narrative. That doesn't give a blah.
Yeah.
But I 3.
3 for you. I'm in the same boat. Like, it's hard to pin this one down.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it because, like I said, it felt like an experience. It was like, wow, it looks great. It's crazy. I guess for me, there's not a lot of rewatchability. I don't think I'd ever want to see this again, but I did enjoy the time that I had watching it. And like you said, like if you were to give this to a film student and say, man, look at this, because this is impressive. So I'm actually going to give it a little high. I'm going to give it a 4.
Whoa!
I'm going to give it a 4.
Oh boy.
I do, because I do think it's worth watching. I think everyone should watch it to experience this.
Gotcha.
But, I don't, maybe I should watch it again. Maybe it's one of those where you require multiple viewings. I don't know.
So this is how I take your initial reaction. It's like, you should watch it, but you shouldn't study it. But you don't know if you should maybe watch it again, because there's something in the background there.
It's like maybe the first time you just watch it and say, I'm enjoying the experience of this craziness and the beauty of the visuals, and then maybe come back to it later on and look for the finer details, because maybe they're there, Maybe
we'll have to rewatch this maybe a year later and see if we understand anything, what the hell is going on with this movie? And then we'll go through all the spoilers and the symbolism and everything. But I mean, I can't find it now.
Because when I left the theater, I was like, man, I'm stimulated, but I have no idea what I just watched.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So yeah, okay. Well, I guess, does that wrap this up? Do we have anything left to say?
No.
Alrighty. Well, Prisoners of Ghostland. Peace.
Deuces.